Militarily Speaking, episode 64, National Foundation for Credit Counseling.
This episode, we talk with Bruce McClary, Senior Vice President, Membership and Media Relations with the National Foundation for Credit Counseling.
Welcome to Militarily Speaking, brought to you by Armed Forces Bank. This is Tom McLean and Jody Vickery. I'm the Regional Military Executive for Armed Forces Bank. Jody is the Executive Vice President, Director of Consumer Banking.
So again, welcome to our show. We're excited to have you listening and learning about our guest, Bruce McClary with the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. I'm going to tell the audience just a little bit about you, Bruce, so hang in with us.
Bruce, we decided to use all of the 8 bios that you sent to me.
Yes, I've got about 6 pages.
And they're going to all be repeated, okay?
Oh, no, please don't.
We are going to take probably the first one you sent to us, so
Yes.
we'll do that
I'm
one.
only going to use a snippet, and it'll be impressive, right?
I know.
Yeah, Bruce McClary is the Senior Vice President of Media Relations and Membership for the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, or NFCC. As the lead spokesperson, Bruce provides communication support for the nation's largest and longest-serving network of nonprofit credit counseling organizations. He also manages activities focused on industry collaboration and membership growth. With decades of experience in the financial services sector, Bruce often draws upon his direct experience as a debt collector, lender, and NFCC certified credit counselor when speaking to journalists and managing financial wellness research. During his career, he has provided one-on-one financial counseling to thousands of consumers, trained financial educators, and reached millions more through print and broadcast media. Bruce has been featured as a financial expert for the nation's top news outlets, including USA Today, CNBC, NBC News, The New York Times, The Wall Street Journal, CNN, MarketWatch, Fox Business, and hundreds of local media outlets from coast to coast.
So he's
and
been
now Militarily Speaking.
I know.
We'll have to update your bio.
He's going to retire after this one because that tops it
It's
all.
like the capstone for any good career.
Bucket list completed.
Bruce, did we cover all the outlets? I mean, that's a plethora of outlets.
No, and I don't want you to cover all of the outlets. We don't need to spend all our time on that.
That'll be the extended podcast version. So welcome, Bruce. It's an honor to have you on our show. Thank you for being here with us. I think to start with, can you just tell our audience who might not know what your organization does or what it's about, give them sort of a macro view, and then we'll dive off into, I'm sure, all sorts of different things.
A potpourri.
A potpourri of things.
Ooh, there's another good word. I
Spell
like
it.
that. I didn't realize it was going to be a spelling bee.
Just don't say potpourri and we'll be fine.
The National Foundation for Credit Counseling is a nonprofit organization, and it started back in 1951 and was primarily dedicated at that time to promoting financial education that leads to financial well-being. And since that time, our mission has remained largely the same. As our services have grown and our member network has grown, we have nonprofit agencies that serve all 50 states and all U.S. territories and provide a range of services like credit counseling, debt management programs, pre-purchase home buyer education, foreclosure prevention, student loan repayment counseling, small business owner financial coaching. And people can access those services by visiting nfcc.org. or calling the toll-free number 1-800-388-2227. And again, these are nonprofit services that are focused on helping people improve their financial well-being.
Really runs the whole gamut of a lot of financial products.
How appropriate the timing of this podcast too in today's environment.
A lot going on.
So we're going to dig right into what you brought to my attention, Bruce, and it's probably some good data that comes out of this, the financial stress forecast and debt score. The results show that there are growing debt balances and financial pressures. So why don't you take a little bit of time to walk through the results that you are seeing from these studies?
Yeah, this is something, the financial stress forecast and the consumer debt score, that was created by the NFCC last year. We launched it last year as a way to blend proprietary data from our counseling sessions. This is anonymized data that focuses on the circumstances that people are facing as they're coming to our member agencies for credit counseling, for financial counseling, and possibly enrolling in our debt management plans. And it combines that with the quarterly Fed data that helps us determine the current and future level of debt-related financial pressures on consumers. And with the score, we're able to confidently predict where those levels of debt delinquency and charge-off are headed and what the resulting burden is going to be on consumers. And so for that, we have what we call the debt burden scale. And it's a scale from 0 to 10, and 0 is debt-free bliss. So you can pretty much extrapolate from that what 10 might be. You know, the world is on fire and people are running and screaming. The financial stress forecast right now is continuing to trend upwards. And we'll talk about the trend and what that's been over the past few years. But it's essentially driven by the fact that consumers are having more difficulty repaying their unsecured debt. When I say unsecured debt, I'm talking about credit card debt, signature loans, things like that. So right now we're right at the cusp of stage 6 on the scale, which is labeled as tightening the belt. And at this stage, levels of household debt make it necessary for people to make sacrifices, buying less at the grocery store, preparing meals at home, maybe possibly delaying vacation, really cutting back on some of the things that they have already in their budget, and even cutting back on savings, which is really concerning. And the trend over the past few years, is that the score has increased by 66.8% since 2021 third quarter,
Wow.
when it was at 3.4. So it's gone from 3.4 to knocking on the door of stage 6 in just this short amount of time since 2021. And what we've seen as we've looked back, we applied this scoring model to all the data retroactively, going back years and years and years. This is the most significant increase over that short a period of time that we've seen as far back as we go with our data. So it's not necessarily where we are on the scale right now that's most concerning, although it is concerning. It's how fast we've gotten there.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And could we go from, like you said, from 3.4 to almost 6? Could we go to 7 or 8 just as quickly?
Yeah, I mean, that's very likely. It's possible. I mean, there's some things that could slow that down or turn things around. But in the near term, it doesn't seem to, and you can kind of think about this. If you look at the economy right now where it is, there still is a significant gap between people's spendability and market prices for basic necessities. I mean, if you 3 years ago, if you went to the grocery store with $75, it would take you $100 to buy those same things today. So that's the reality people are dealing with, and salaries haven't all salaries haven't completely caught up with the increased cost of living. So people more and more are living paycheck to paycheck, and they don't have room for those extra things. And sometimes it leads people to rely more frequently on their available line of credit to fill that gap in their budget. And so as people do that and they run up their line of credit, that becomes less manageable, and you get into that brick wall scenario. So that's kind of where we are now. We're approaching that brick wall scenario where people are running out of room with their available line of credit to use as a lifeline, and that debt is becoming unmanageable. And when that debt becomes unmanageable, they have nowhere else to go. You're not going to be able to go out and get another credit card if your credit score is tanking because you're missing payments and people are closing your lines of credit. So that's the nightmare scenario that could be ahead if people don't start reaching out and getting help right away. And we're seeing more people do that, but I think there are even more out there that need that help.
But Bruce, they probably then turn to either family and friends, which can be a whole nother conversation, or they go to the non-traditional or non-bank financial services providers, right? Because what choices do they have? Maybe that's the only thing they know and they're not familiar with other routes, but that's where they land sometimes.
Well, that's a really good observation, because it does happen frequently that people will turn to family and friends, or they will, in a crisis situation, respond to an advertising offer or something they perceive as a lifeline without taking time to thoroughly check it out. And so you're going to have two situations there. You're going to have people borrowing from their family. And believe me, in the years that I've been working as a counselor, that can ruin family relationships when you start turning to family and borrowing, getting a lifeline. And then just as dangerous, if not more so, is reaching out to some of these questionable offers that are promising quick fixes without taking the time to check out if they're suitable for your circumstances, if they're helpful at all.
Bruce, I'm going to fact check something. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
and I don't believe everything you read on Google, but the national credit card debt number is what?
Like how much a household has
Or
outstanding?
just the total sum? Oh, it's over $1 trillion.
Right. It's 1.14 trillion with
It's
a T,
1.14.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those numbers are going to be updating soon. But yeah, as of last check, it was over $1 trillion.
So you've been in this
Real
business long enough. When was it in the billions? Like 2 years ago or 20 years ago?
Yeah, it wasn't long ago. It was a few years ago when it was in the billions, in the high billions. So we just recently crossed the threshold of hell, basically.
I know. I can't even fathom
into the
that number.
trillion-dollar
Yeah.
territory. But that was a recent development. I mean, going way back to when I was starting as a counselor, I mean, it was, if you would have come to me and said, "Oh yeah, in your career you'll see the amount of credit card debt go to over $1 trillion," I probably would have dismissed that as some kind of panic and fantasy. But it's actually come true.
It's
real.
here. Yeah.
As you're describing that debt score, it made me think of the visual in your doctor's office where it's the pain scale, and it's like the happy face on one end and the not so happy face
It's
on the
kind
other
of
end.
like that.
Yeah. We are in the frowny face territory for sure.
Mhm.
For sure. So we've done some surveys here. You know, Armed Forces Bank, we serve the military community and folks that are in and around that space. And so we've done some surveys ourselves on military families, how their finances are affected by what's going on in the world around them. But I wanted to invite you to talk about the Harris poll that has some key takeaways that directly affect military members and their families and veterans, and what findings it held that our audience might find of interest or of value.
Yeah, it sort of ties into some of the things that we focus on with the financial stress forecast and the debt score, because it just continues observation of some of the underlying issues that come forward in the Harris poll. So Jody, when we surveyed the American public, we did that back in January of this year. So it was back at the beginning of the year. And that's pretty much the regular cadence. We'll put the survey out in the field at the beginning of the year. We'll report the results around April, which is Financial Literacy Month. And then we'll follow up with a focus on military in May. And it gives us an opportunity to look at all the different groups that are surveyed. But just a little bit of background on the Harris poll. We've been conducting the survey with Harris poll since 2007. So that's a really rich history of data and trend lines that we can look back to. And we've conducted the survey to gauge the financial knowledge and well-being of U.S. adults. And until 2014, it was pretty much focused on the general population. So it was just a single survey that went out to all, to everybody in the general population, regardless of their career, their focus, just to get an overview. But in 2014, we started surveying military groups, and we started taking a closer look at active duty service members and veterans. And in that year, we said, hey, this is interesting. We should continue doing this. And we were fortunate to find sponsors to continue that journey. So we skipped a year, 2015, but we resumed the survey in 2016. And what we did in 2016 is we added military spouses to round out that survey and get a good look at the entire military household as well as veterans. And so it's been great to manage that survey and to grow that survey into something that gives us a little bit of more insight into the financial decisions, the challenges, and the opportunities that are presented to military families. And for this year's survey, a common theme across all of the different areas where we focused is financial uncertainty and strain. So when I say a common theme, that is applicable to the general population, to active duty service members, to spouses, and to veterans. There's almost no difference across every one of the surveyed populations in terms of the fact that comes up frequently in the results. And we can break this down a little bit. With the widespread financial stress, many Americans are feeling financially insecure, partly due to the debt burdens that they're carrying and this feeling that they're unable to reach their long-term financial goals. Then there is, of course, I guess, an unfortunate development in this year's survey about the comfort level of growing your debt level despite the risks. And this could be an offshoot of just survival, getting by, using your available credit as a lifeline. A significant portion of the population is willing to take on or maintain high levels of debt, even with the potential for continued economic downturns. So what that's telling us is If you have a line of credit, if it's available, you may be in a situation where you feel pressured to use it regardless of the consequences. So that's very unfortunate. That's deeply concerning. There's also a need for more financial education. The survey identified that there's a growing recognition. People are self-aware of the fact that they may not know as much as they need to know when they're going out into the marketplace, when they're looking at financial services, when they're making decisions about their budget. And then this is always fun to talk about at Valentine's Day, but relationship stress due to finances. Financial management is a source of conflict within households. So both the general population and military families are impacted by this, with some avoiding conversations about finances altogether because of the potential stress that causes. So those are just some of the things that came forward, but with specific focus on the military, there are three things that I guess are key takeaways here. First of all, use of non-bank financial services. This isn't something that's necessarily uncommon among the military population based on data from prior years that has consistently revealed high percentages of payday loan utilization among enlisted members of the military. That trend continues. So there's no surprise there. And it does, in just as a point of information, what we're seeing in our survey has been consistent in that it is higher than what is coming forward in the status of forces survey conducted by the DoD. So that's certainly something that's a debatable point, maybe for a later discussion.
Right.
But we're seeing high utilization of payday loans. What we're also seeing, though, has to do with emerging financial products such as buy now, pay later, and cryptocurrency creeping into the picture. And our survey found that service members and their spouses are using cryptocurrency at 2 to 3 times the level of people in the general population and among veterans.
Wow.
Interesting. I wonder why.
Yeah, so non-bank financial services as a broader category is one of the three. Gig work is also another area that kind of stood out in the survey. And just as in recent years when we've asked the question, gig work remains common among active duty military households, who report about half are using side jobs to make ends meet. So that continues, and that is a higher percentage than the general population. The last item has to do with the Valentine's Day topic, and that's communication about finances within the military household. So it certainly is something that impacts relationships in military families. Often the civilian spouse is the household CFO. They're the chief financial officer of the household, and they're making key decisions about how to manage finances in times of deployment or throughout the year under other circumstances. And what our survey found is that military couples place a high degree of value in honesty about finances, a higher degree than the general population, which is great. But they admit that discussions about money often lead to conflict.
Yeah, no, I believe that. Exacerbated, I would think, in a military household, because a misstep can not only cost financial matters in your household, but it can cost job security, security clearances.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's hard sometimes when that military family isn't under one roof physically. Those conversations are even more difficult. So when you've got one spouse stateside, one spouse overseas or across the country, it's harder when you get short periods of time on the phone to have a deep, meaningful, serious conversation about finance when you haven't talked to them for a while.
And other things come to the surface.
Yeah.
Kids and
life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing lives in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm going to fact check you on something else too? You ready?
Okay.
So the military spouse unemployment rate's like 21%. Is that right?
That sounds about what I'm hearing.
Depending on what data source and what time of the year, but that to me would seem like that would have an impact on the stress levels.
Well, it does, and I know that the issue of difficulty finding employment after relocation is an issue that is being addressed by the different branches of service and the DoD. So I know that it's enough of a concern that there's an effort underway to try to make this easier for spouses who have to uproot and relocate because of new base assignment, to help them find jobs in their new community. That's always going to be a challenge, though. I don't see too many easy answers there, but certainly there are things that can be done to make it even easier and to help facilitate the reconnection for that continued career track that they may want. But before we continue on that, though, there's one group that I missed in my points, and I want to make sure that I address them, and that's veterans. The veterans are part of the survey, and we're talking about resources to help spouses in connecting with employment. Resources are something that comes up in the veterans' responses because veterans agree in a significant majority that while there are some resources available to promote their financial well-being, there's still a need for more. So that presents opportunities for a lot of people to get in there into this space and to provide, whether it's financial education or whether it's help understanding different products and services in the financial marketplace. I think there's an opportunity there for more.
Agreed. Thank you for remembering to bring that up. I'm shifting gears now. So the credit counseling landscape, I've had a little history with that too. And I've been in banking 35 years. So probably in certain parts of the country, there might not have been the most credit counseling companies that had integrity, right? And I'm just going to say it bluntly like that too. So they had a little media guffaws along the way too. And their brand and their image was a little tarnished back then. And you've been around since 1951. Maybe not you, Bruce, but NFCC has. Yeah, we'll talk about that with Jody. But so
I have not either been around since 1951.
Yeah, I'm getting closer. So do you have any guidance you've got instant credibility just because of it should come with the territory that you have the years of experience, just like we think we do since we've been around since 1907 at Armed Forces Bank. You get sort of that unconditional trust that you're dealing with a reputable organization that has the skill set and the resources and the expertise to help you. And so the guidance for people that are at that level 6 now, it seems like people are in that world. Do you have some advice or guidance on how they should vet consumer credit counseling agencies? Are there different sites or Better Business Bureau or things where they can say, that's an organization with which I want to do business?
Yeah, I appreciate the question because I will say this also touches on the increasing complexity of the financial service marketplace and how difficult the choice is for people who find themselves in a position where they have to reach out to somebody, they don't know who, to get help when they're struggling to overcome a debt challenge or need help understanding how to get their budget back on track. And there's always been some degree of difficulty in making that decision going all the way back. And the NFCC has been around since 1951. Again, I have not, but the organization has.
Just for clarity.
Point of clarity.
Yeah, but the designation that helps people identify whether they're getting connected with a source that can be trusted, that's going to protect the confidentiality of that discussion, and is going to be able to provide informed and impartial advice to help people better understand the choices they have in front of them and confidently take the next step. I would say first start looking for the NFCC seal, the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, because it has been the stamp of, somebody used to compare it with the Good Housekeeping seal of approval,
right?
But that's sort of a 1951 reference, isn't it? But it is sort of that indicator that you are dealing with an organization that's trusted and that has experience, integrity, and knowledge that you can depend on to help you make those difficult choices about turning your situation around. And so that's important to do when you're looking for an organization. And I think nonprofit credit counseling is a good starting point, no matter the decision you ultimately make about what to do next, because a nonprofit credit counseling agency and an NFCC certified credit counselor can help you understand the choices you have to make so that you do pick something that's suitable, whether you continue working with that nonprofit agency or whether you go elsewhere to find your answers. At least you can confidently make a decision because the counselor helps you understand those choices better and helps you take a closer look at a situation that, quite frankly, you may not have wanted to look at so closely before.
Good point. Yeah, and that really took us to the follow-up question about certification of a credit counselor and the seal, if you will, of approval. That's a designation where that's a good starting point for someone. Because just like whether you're buying a car, which I'm Am I doing that now?
You're trying to.
I know.
Baby steps.
Or when you're looking at different sites like Yelp and others that are looking for what are the reviews out there, right? So do your homework, right? My advice too, probably your advice, do the due diligence, do the homework.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just go in there, and take the time to do it right.
Exactly. And an important thing to note, again, when you're pressured and you feel that your situation is coming apart faster than you can get a handle on it, there is still at least a minimal amount of time that you should give yourself to look at the details of the options you have and determine which is the best for your situation. But don't just rush towards an offer because you think it's going to help resolve your situation. In a 30-second ad, maybe they described all these great things they're going to do. You need to check it out first, because that thing that looks like a life preserver might be a cinder block.
Right.
Well, I'm going to quote that one. Talk about that around here.
Lots of application.
Yeah. So your website, we'll say it again, nfcc.org. You have a very, very impressive board of trustees, a great council on member affairs.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about, I know you've been there since 2015, but you've got to have a good feel and handle on the composition of those two organizations. That, I mean, how do you get that group of people? How do you garner their support, and what kind of engagement do you get from the people that are involved sort of behind the scenes for NFCC?
Ooh, now we're getting into the super secret sauce recipe.
Excellent.
Okay.
Should we move on?
Yeah,
Are you
no,
good?
this is
Are you
good.
good with it?
No.
This is good.
All right.
Pop popcorn now.
I am ready to rip the lid off. Let's talk about it. Yeah. So I think one of the great things about the NFCC and the organization and how it's structured is the fact that we do bring a lot of voices to the table when it comes to guiding the mission of the organization, ensuring that we put consumers first, and keeping our finger on the pulse of what's happening so that we're prepared to serve consumers in the future and continue to grow the organization and to keep things going. So first and foremost, I mean, we are an organization that supports our members' ability to provide services in their communities. And these are the nonprofit credit counseling agencies that are part of the NFCC network. So to do that, we have a board of trustees, which is made up of leaders from a range of industries, including financial services, education, all of those areas where consumer interests are a priority. And so they are external to the NFCC network and provide valuable leadership and guidance towards keeping us on track with our mission. The other part of the equation is the council on member affairs. And it may not be unique. It seems unique to us based on the work that we do, but it gives our member agencies a similar voice at the table. So it is part of the governance structure, and it includes elected members who are CEOs of the member agencies. So the membership gets together at our annual meeting and they elect representatives to be a part of this council of member affairs. So that way we are including a voice in our governance process that comes from the front lines of counseling and lets us know what's needed and keeps us focused on what's important.
It's awesome. Not have that, what I call it, the ivory tower
Yeah, well, they're just making
mentality. Yeah.
just high-level decisions and not really connecting with what the real issues are facing the communities that you're supposed to serve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's great to get all the different insights. As a military spouse, I understand how unpredictable life can be. Whether it's a PCS move or just everyday expenses, money can be tight. That's why it's so important to have a checking account that works for you.
Armed Forces Bank offers our Access Freedom checking accounts designed with military families in mind. If you're looking for no monthly fees, early military pay, and no fee access to over 38,000 ATMs nationwide, we've got you covered. Plus, with our user-friendly mobile app, managing your money is a breeze, no matter where you're stationed.
And with about 75% of our team affiliated with the military, Armed Forces Bank really understands the challenges faced by the military and their families. We've been supporting military families for over 100 years, so you know we'll always have your back.
If you're ready for a checking account that's as flexible as you are, head over to afbank.com or visit a branch near you. Armed Forces Bank, serving those who serve. Member FDIC. $25 opening deposit and e-statements required. Direct deposit required for early military pay. Closing new accounts within 90 days of opening will result in a $25 early closure fee. Message and data rates charged by your mobile phone carrier may apply.
Kind of sticking with the theme of things that are available and visible on your website.
Which is what?
www.nfcc.org.
Correct.
I want to say that often and repeated. Our folks will go there and they'll see a plethora of resources. There's that word again, right? Tom likes the word plethora.
It's multisyllabic. It's got to be at least 3 syllables.
A plethora? Is that how we decided?
No.
Bruce says plethora. He's been saying it wrong his whole life.
We could say it's a smorgasbord.
A cornucopia of resources,
Yes.
one might say. Blogs, press releases. So if somebody were to go there and need sort of, cookie crumb trail of where to start. Yeah. So what would you say are top of mind? Like, go here first, look into this as a first step, and then proceed from there.
Well, the first thing I would say, and I don't want to be too self-congratulatory, but we have a great team that works on our website, and they do a lot of very hard work to make it focused on the needs people have when they look for help from organizations like our NFCC members. So we try to make the landing page as streamlined as possible. So the things that you can find there most immediately, first of all, is a way to connect with an NFCC certified credit or housing counselor right from the homepage at the top, in the top right. So if you want one-on-one counseling, if you have questions that are best answered by a human being and not a bot, then click on that and you can, or call the number and you can talk to somebody. So that's first and foremost. But there's also some good information on the website that's more self-serve. And if you want to go and look at some of the resources, we have budget tools, financial planning resources that help people set up realistic financial goals and tackle some of the decisions they have in front of them in maintaining and managing their budget. And we also have something new and exciting on our website under education and resources. And these are online courses that are available. And you can click through to the education and resources section, and they cover a growing range of topics like budgeting, understanding your credit score, common things that people have in mind when they're looking at their budget or managing their debt. And then if you scroll down on our homepage, way down, you'll find blogs about a range of personal finance topics. And we've been posting these blogs since the beginning of time. So there's just about every topic you can imagine. That's
at least
covered.
Since 1951, right?
Even before
Since
the
Bruce has been
internet.
around.
Yeah. So these topics cover a very broad range of things where you might find some helpful information.
Very good. Are the courses that are online, are those sort of self-navigated kind of courses?
Yeah.
Got it. Very nice.
I think that as we talk about I'm going to call it a crisis just because we talked about the 1.14 trillion and the survey results that you're sharing there are financial stressors and stresses out there. I think the hardest part probably is looking in the mirror, right? And saying, I need help. I got to seek assistance. So there is a realization that someone may have those financial challenges. They may not have the right coping mechanisms associated with those stresses around financial matters. So is there anything a message you want to give to someone that says, I'm going to take that step? Is there something or is it just internal and they've got to come to that realization?
Yeah. It's so easy for somebody to sit here and say, yeah, go ahead, pick up the phone or go online and get help now. But when you're in the midst of a financial crisis, it can be very difficult to get to the point where you're comfortable reaching out and trusting someone else to help you through the problem that you're facing. And that goes back to what we were saying before. It's really, you're doing yourself a favor when you check out these resources before you reach out. But once you've come to the decision to reach out, I think you should acknowledge the fact that is a huge, massive step that you've just taken that will go a long way towards helping you get out of the situation you're in. And avoiding taking that step only makes things worse, far worse than you can imagine. And especially if you're active duty military, debt issues have security clearance consequences, career advancement issues. There's a lot at stake. But reaching out and getting help is a first very important step in resolving those issues, overcoming those barriers. And I can just say from firsthand experience, because I was a frontline counselor for years, I worked in an area where there was a high concentration of active duty military. And oftentimes when people would reach out and get help from a nonprofit credit counseling agency, like the one that I worked for, that was able to mitigate issues that stood in the way of renewing or achieving a security clearance, career advancement. They were able to go and show that they were taking steps to resolve those issues. And so being proactive and taking that step is more doing yourself a favor than anything else. So I would say feel good about the choice when you do reach out for help, and be open to the possibilities, because things can't be so bad that there are no options or possibilities. So just be open to the advice you get, ask lots of questions, and make sure that you're informed before you commit to a specific outcome.
Sage advice.
Yeah, well, I would think reaching out and asking for help at the point that you ask for the help would be a sense of relief.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
You've taken that first step towards, I'm going to get out of whatever this situation is.
The most common thing that people said after going through that initial counseling session when I was a counselor was they felt like the weight of the world was lifted off their shoulders. And I think that's, who doesn't want to have that feeling, right? So
right.
It's more incentive to reach out and get help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I could definitely see that. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. Tom and I have been blessed through this podcast largely to talk to a lot of organizations that help military families, veterans, active duty, suffering from health issues, PTSD, financial issues. Food insecurity is something we hear about a lot. When we look at your website, you've got organizations listed such as Operation Homefront, the American Red Cross, Wounded Warrior, Gary Sinise Foundation, MFAN, or Military Family Advisory Network. How does NFCC align with those types of organizations for the betterment of our military families?
Well, the one thing that your question calls attention to is the vast network of support services that extend a hand to active duty service members and veterans and military families. So it's great to be a part of that effort, knowing that we're helping out in some way with the financial well-being and financial readiness of military families and helping support veterans. But these other organizations do so much in so many other ways. And as we referenced earlier in the discussion, and it was pointed out that there are a lot of things that are interconnected. Your financial situation doesn't live by itself. It touches on so many other aspects of your life. So when people come to us for counseling, we want to make sure that we're also helping connect them to other resources that can assist in ways that we can't. So if we're focused on the financial, and our counselors do an incredible job helping people through some significant financial challenges, many of them that are unique to military families, but there are other things that individuals are going through where our counselors may not be able to directly assist, but we can facilitate connections to those trusted organizations like Wounded Warriors, like the Gary Sinise Foundation, and like some of the other programs that are available. And I will say too, you mentioned MFAN. I have tremendous respect for the work that they do and the issues that they bring attention to. And any opportunity where we can collaborate with them is always a welcome opportunity. And I know they have a great survey as well that goes into all kinds of areas that we don't, like food insecurity and housing. So a lot of respect for those organizations. So we're always open to working with them, and we certainly welcome opportunities to refer people for help from this network of trusted organizations whenever appropriate.
She and I always talk about there's 45,000 nonprofits supporting military community, right? And certainly that's a lot of podcast episodes, but that it just goes to show you that sometimes that number itself is overwhelming to a point where I'm not even going to dig in because it's just too much. But you're right. There are so many great organizations out there. We meet such wonderful people that run these organizations too.
Well, the cool thing is they never have ever seemed to compete with one another to do well.
And they know the other organizations.
And so there's always the willingness, like you've described for your organization, to collaborate and to share and pool resources where appropriate to help a family that's in maybe a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Bruce, why do you like working for NFCC?
Wow, now I feel like I'm in my annual review talking to my boss now.
You bring that up, but this is your annual review.
Okay, Mike and Jen, this is for you. No, the
be careful.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's great to be able to support an organization that has, as a nonprofit, has done so much for so many people in helping them not just get past a financial setback, but to get themselves in a position where they're more resilient and are able to, on their own, overcome significant financial issues in the future. So it's the NFCC and its members don't just put a Band-Aid on an issue. They help train people to be the medic, to be the doctor, to do better and to live better financial lives in the future, no matter what life throws at them. We just had a conference just the other week in Washington, D.C. It's our annual conference. And we had a panel of four people that have been helped by our counseling. And three of them, it has been a while since they went through the counseling program. So they've had years after to report on, to come back and tell us how their life has been. And to a person, what they learned through the experience of working with a counselor has benefited them in some way, often significant way, in helping them live better financial lives and achieve the goals that they have for themselves in their life, to do things that they never dreamt they would be able to do later. So it's not just about overcoming debt or to finding a way to avoid bankruptcy or get out of a crisis. It's also about achieving life's goals, and life-changing things can happen as a result. So that's why it's been an honor not just to work for the NFCC, but in the years prior to work for one of the NFCC member agencies as a counselor and to directly impact the lives of so many people. And it's a great team. Because of the work that is done by the NFCC, we have a very dedicated and committed group of individuals. You know, nobody's here to get rich or famous. Everybody's focused on one goal, and that's just making people's lives better.
Man, how do you find those gems, huh?
I know. Well, if it was really for your review, you would have just started off by saying, I love my job because of insert boss's name.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mike and Jen, you're amazing. Fantastic people.
And now you're covered for Boss's Day too. So we'll send you that clip and they can make it their ringtone.
No merit increase for you, Bruce.
But in an indirect way, I kind of did indicate that they are amazing, incredible people. Because as I said about the team, I mean, everybody is here because they're mission focused. So it's not just about them and their career advancement. It's about helping the people that need us. So it's the best group of people you could ever imagine working for or with.
That's awesome.
Wow.
That's awesome. And what you answered Tom with sort of ties to the question I was going to ask you. So you talked about the three individuals that were on the panel and how it had been a life-changing experience for them. Well, he said there were four people on the panel, but three of them had gone
so you
through
were
the
listening.
counseling. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. One had just completed the program, so they were a little fresh.
Okay, so put your four back in your pocket. Anyway, before I was really interrupted.
Okay, Jody, I was wrong.
Yes, and now we have it. I need that.
We could talk about Fonzie because Fonzie could never say he was wrong.
I need that for my ringtone. When Tom calls, it's going to say, I was wrong. Answer the phone. Anyway, we digress because of Tom. So other than those folks and those very recent stories that you just were able to hear at the conference, maybe even back when you were in the front lines as a counselor, is there a family or a person that just sticks out to you that when you think of this is why I do what I do every day? I know he's probably got hundreds or thousands. Is there one that you would share with us that really is just a good representation of your personal why?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. See, this is the Barbara Walters interview part where you make me cry. She always had that one question where she tried to make people cry. No, but in all seriousness, I mean, when thinking about the people, and I'm going back to my counseling days, the people that I've worked with directly, there were so many people who found themselves in situations they assumed were the end of the line, and that there was no hope or no help. And I think the most rewarding thing was to be a part of the process that helps them realize that it's not a dead end, and that there are choices they could make, there are steps they could take to get out of an unavoidable situation that might be a dead end. And it changes people's lives in such a significant way that there are mental health implications, there's emotional well-being, And I can think of specific examples, but just in general, just being able to see that significant a change in someone's life has been certainly inspirational to me, because, and I'm not saying, oh, it's the counseling that did this. The counseling isn't the end to a means, it's the means to an end. And it's the process that helps people realize that there are choices, and it helps them make informed choices for themselves, and it helps them feel more confident. And so they're the ones doing the heavy lifting. As the counselor, I was just there to facilitate that process and to jump in and to provide advice and to answer questions. But there's so many instances where the people that I worked with did some incredible, amazing things to get back on track, and to be a small part of that, to help out as the counselor, was tremendously gratifying. And I still hear from some of those people today. I mean, we heard from
awesome.
that panel of 3 people at the conference, and it's just so incredible to hear what they're doing with their lives, going into business for themselves, or traveling around the world, or starting organizations that help other people. I mean, it's amazing.
That's pretty cool, especially for them to come back and stay in touch.
And it's almost like they made permanent changes to their life too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I had to dig far and look high, wide, long to find this. No, I'm kidding. Somebody said something really nice about you, and I wanted to share it with the group.
Oh, my goodness, no. Okay.
It wasn't your direct supervisors, because I already tried that route. They just hung up on me. Now, so Bruce is a talented and highly effective public relations, communications, and marketing leader. He is a trusted national spokesperson for NFCC because of his professionalism, industry experience, and passion for helping people improve their finances. What stands out most about Bruce is his positive and collaborative nature. He always goes above and beyond to get the job done. And I think that's emblematic of your entire organization. And you just echo those same comments about the team with whom you work, that you're proud to be there. And to answer Jody's question about the why, what keeps you going every day? Why do you wake up in the morning to go serve those who serve? And just the comments from somebody in your circle of influence to say something that favorable about you says a lot about you and the organization. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you. I'm tremendously honored by those comments, but I will say that any of those qualities that people may see from the work that I do are inspired by the people around me. So I will absolutely emphasize that point, because I'd be a terrible heel if I didn't work around such good people.
So you've been in the upper north, what do they call that? The Pacific Northwest, right?
Yes, the PNW.
For a couple of years maybe, and you've got some unique knowledge of Seattle. I want to know what you do for a hobby.
He's not solving world peace.
When you're not solving world credit problems.
No, I'm not knitting. I don't knit.
That's a long start.
Yeah.
That's from 1951.
I tried to crochet one. Right. It didn't go well.
No, I mean, for me, the Pacific Northwest is a place of tremendous natural beauty. I mean, anybody who enjoys being outdoors would feel right at home here. And it's one of the reasons that I moved here originally. Years ago, I grew up in Virginia on the East Coast, so very familiar with the South and the Southeast. So I try to spend as much time as possible away from the city. For me, the city is just a place where I rest my head and I'm housed. But then on the weekends, even in the evenings, I try to get out and hike. I go into the mountains, spend as much time as I can outdoors. There are beautiful beaches. There's rugged coastline, the Columbia River and the desert canyons around that area, the wineries down in the Tri-Cities area, the Columbia River Valley. I'm starting to sound like a travel brochure, but
I feel like I need to sign up for a cruise or something with you.
Yeah. And we have cruises that start here too, the Alaska cruises. So there you go.
For an extra $200, you can. No.
Yeah. So I really love the outdoors, but I also can't break away from the conveniences of living in the city. So I live in the city. I don't like the city necessarily. So I like to get out into the wilderness and explore the great outdoors.
And it never rains in Seattle, is what I hear.
Well, there's a song. I think it's something about the bluest skies you'll ever see are in Seattle. And there's some
fiction or not? What?
Lies.
There's some truth to that, because the summer is reliably sunny and the winter and spring and fall are reliably rainy.
See, I thought he was going to say the bluest skies in Texas. And I'm like, what's that have to do with Seattle? Different song, different state.
But in the summer, yes, that's why most of the tourists who come for the cruise ships and everything, they come in July and August, and the roads get crowded and the sidewalks are busy. And then everybody goes when the raindrops start falling.
Another song, Raindrops.
Right.
Which is what? Raindrops keep falling on my head?
Yeah.
We're breaking all kinds of copyright rules here.
Or how about It's Raining Again by Supertramp? I can't say Supertramp.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's dating myself.
I don't know that one.
You don't know Supertramp?
No.
Breakfast in America.
Breakfast in America, one of the best albums of all time, right?
I got nothing. But I do have a military minute.
Ooh.
How was that for a slick transition?
By the way, Jody's a Hank Williams fan.
Hank Williams Jr., Hank Williams Sr. is not my demographic.
Oh, junior, senior, what, third, fourth, what, does it matter?
Well, answer me this before we get into the military minute, and you're a Hank Williams fan.
Oh.
Did Hank Williams ever do a cover version of the song There's a Tear in My Beer?
Junior? Did Junior do that?
Junior, yes.
I think he did. And didn't they like holograph his dad in beside him?
Oh, yikes. I didn't know that part.
Oh,
yeah.
You've got a skill set I didn't know you had.
I think it was maybe on an award show and they
Okay.
like holographed his dad in and they sang it together.
Sort of like with Nat King Cole thing. They did that with when Natalie did a song
Yeah.
with her father.
Just like that.
Yeah, the holograms creep me out. I don't know.
Yeah. So we're going to his concert Saturday.
Well, with
so.
AI, you might see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. Or just close my eyes and imagine.
Yeah.
Active imagination.
This is where Bruce can answer.
I know Bruce is pumped about the military minute. He's excited. I knew that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Okay, give me a good one here.
Okay, so this one you can totally answer if you know the answer, or you could just guess and then we'll judge you.
And so will the audience.
Yeah.
Our last
source.
guest was related to the Wounded Warrior Project. And so it's kind of a basic question. In what city was the Wounded Warrior Project founded?
Oh,
I picked that one because it's part of you listed on your website.
I didn't even give it to you if you guessed like a state.
I'm gonna have to say mea culpa here. I do not know the answer to that question.
You didn't even phone a friend.
I didn't even phone a friend. I could guess. My guess would be.
Wait, I'll give you a hint. You lived in this area of the country. You
Virginia.
Said, right. So
okay, so you got the state right.
You got the state. Now give me a city.
It rhymes with Mo and
And
Oak.
we only have 38 minutes.
Oh, Roanoke, Virginia.
It rhymes with Mo and Oak.
I grew up near there. Yeah.
Ding,
Okay.
ding, ding. So if you are in our audience and you guessed Roanoke, Virginia, and you commented that without me saying it rhymed with Mo and Oak, watch for us to post your name as the person selected to win $50 for you and $50 to a charity of your choice. And now for this week's military minute, this one you cannot answer, but shake your head vigorously up and down if you know it.
Okay. All right.
It's about credit scores. What is the range from low to high of possible credit scores? He's not shaking his head.
I know. Well, he knows the answer.
I know the answer, but what is the head shake for? Good
just
question?
so that we know that you know.
Oh yeah.
All right.
It's validation.
I'm on the Experian Consumer Council. I hope I know the answer to that question.
We figured that was a gimme.
Bruce is going to say it rhymes with. Yeah.
No hints. So if you are in our audience and you are not Bruce and you know the answer to that, comment it when we drop this podcast.
Can I give people a hint?
Oh.
It's a number, not a letter.
Yes, that's fine.
That's
It's a
a
range.
hint.
We're looking for a range of numbers from a low
not
number
letters.
to a high number.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Bruce, you had to add value.
And so if your answer is right, you can watch to see if we select your name, and you too could win $50 for yourself and $50 to a charity of your choice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's been a pleasure, Bruce. Want to refer folks back to your website again, nfcc.org.
Yep. nfcc.org. And thanks, Jody and Tom, for having me on the podcast. If I didn't totally ruin your show, I'd love to be back. It would be a great honor.
I think, and as we get through the next surveys year after year, I think though, if the findings change or if there's more information, we'd love to have you back. So if you enjoyed today's episode, like Jody did, go out to afbank.com and subscribe to the show. Also, make sure to rate us, leave us a comment on your favorite podcast platform. And Bruce, those platforms are Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And you did a fantastic job today. Again,
this was fun.
Your professionalism and your experience you have doing this and the knowledge you bring to the audience has been incredible. So thank you.
Well, thanks, Tom, and thanks, Jody. And next time I'm on, please have an easier trivia question.
It won't rhyme with Roanoke because I don't know that anything else other than Roanoke does.
It rhymes with Neaddle. Yeah, and then we'll go.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on.
All right.
care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Copyright Armed Forces Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. All non-Armed Forces Bank owned apps, websites, company names, and product names are trademarks or registered trademarks of their respective owners. Their mention does not imply any affiliation with or endorsement by Armed Forces Bank of them or their products and services. They are merely used as examples of the many available apps, companies, and websites that offer similar services. Before using any app or website, you should carefully review the terms of use, data collection, and privacy policy. Apps may have an initial cost or in-application purchase features. This information is general in nature and is not intended to be legal, tax, or financial advice. Although Armed Forces Bank believes this information to be accurate, it cannot ensure that it could change. Statements or opinions of individuals referenced herein are their own, not Armed Forces Bank. Consult an appropriate professional concerning your specific situation and respective governing bodies for applicable laws, such as IRS.gov for current tax law. Armed Forces Bank, the Armed Forces Bank logo, and the Militarily Speaking logo are registered trademarks of Armed Forces Bank.